Hi guys, Ian here. Welcome to my channel and to another video. And apologies about the bad lighting, and I'm not sure how this will turn out, but my camera has died. It's been charged up, and I just felt the urge to ramble for a while about something that I've been talking about over the last few days, and that is how best to learn about the Kabbalistic tree of life. And not only how best to learn, but how best to experience what the tree of life is. Because when we think of what it is said to be, the map of all things in the above, save Ein Sof or itself, and all things in the below, including a map of humanity and the essential nature of humankind. Now, if that indeed is true, which I believe it is, this should not be like learning the principles of economics. It should be a living experience. We should feel it. We should be changed by that which we experience. We should have a sense of standing before something awesome. We should have a sense of being enriched beyond our wildest imaginings as the secrets of the tree of life are revealed within us. And that's what it feels like to me. That's what I experience in my studies of the tree. Now, I'm not saying that, I've got it right. And in some senses, I feel a complete fraud talking to people about this. But what I want to share, because of the conversation that I had, is the advice that I have followed, which has worked for me. And maybe it will work for you. Okay, so what then is that advice? Well, the first part of it is that the understanding the tree of life doesn't come about through academic studies. Now, that's not to say that we don't need to read and find out, because of course we do to an extent, but that living essence of the tree, that unfolding of its magic, doesn't come through what we read in books. It comes through what we do with some of the things that we read. And some of the things that I'm talking about are the symbols of the Sephira, the titles of the Sephira, the attributions, the things that are written in the ancient texts about each Sephira on the tree, right? And what I'm saying is that we don't learn those rote fashion, but that we contemplate them. And I'll speak a little bit more about that in a minute. But symbols, Dion in her book, The Mystical Qabalah, tells us that symbols are to the mind what tools are to the hand. Now, to me, that's amazing in and of itself, because I understand how it is true, because the language of the subconscious, the language of the soul, is not words. It's symbols and images and concepts. So when we then allow our mind to be filled and to dwell on a symbol, an image, or a concept, something happens within us. One, because we are now working in the right language of the subconscious and the soul. And two, because of what happens within the world soul when people do that. Now, some of these symbols and images and titles have been meditated on, contemplated on, have been explored over thousands of years by millions of people. And as I've mentioned in one of my other videos, my belief is, it's not just my belief, that when we do this, the experience of those meditations and contemplations are held in the world soul, so that when someone who knows very little about the Sephira on the Tree of Life also starts contemplating those symbols, it's like they click on a hyperlink into the world soul, and the experiences of the horde of humanity who have done what they are doing right now becomes available to them, and it comes back down to them in a magical way, if you like, because ideas come to your mind, experiences arise within you that you have not learnt through your own experience. And then what you can do with those ideas, those other images, those felt sensations within you, you can explore them yourself. And maybe you can research them academically, and then you begin to see what the tree actually is, that it's a living, vital, it's divinity expressed as experiential knowledge. So, okay then, what do I mean about contemplate and fill your mind with? Well, to me, meditating and contemplating, there's a fine line between them, and I'm no expert, but myself, the difference for me is that when I meditate, I set myself aside. I have a routine that I go through. My meditation is a time of formal inner work, whereas contemplation to me happens wherever I am. You know, if I'm walking, if I'm listening to music, if I'm, I don't know, doing some mundane tasks around the house, I can be in contemplation. I can have in my mind an image or a symbol or a short sentence or a title that I can just let my mind wrap around it. And from that has flown amazing revelations and experiences. And I know that that isn't only my own experience. Okay, so contemplating then is just to put something in your mind and allow your mind to chew on it. But in an informal way. It doesn't matter whether you're interrupted by a phone call or somebody knocking your door. It doesn't matter whether you have to break off from that for a moment, but then go back to it when you can and just chew it over in a gentle and informal way. And I honestly, you will be amazed at what comes to you when you do that in the right attitude. Because I believe, right, that the secrets of mysticism are hidden in plain sight. And they're available for anyone to see and know. But until you're at the right time in your soul experience, they will be meaningless to you. And you will look at them, like I did for many years, you look at them and they may have a superficial surface meaning, but they don't give up their secrets until you are at the right time and in the right place. Okay, so what then do we contemplate? Well, for this you will need to do a little bit of research and a little bit of study, but you don't have to hold anything. You don't have to learn for an exam. You can because you can go back time and time again for the bits that you need. But let's look at an example now. Now, as you'll know, Keter is the first Sephira on the Tree of Life. It's the concreting out of a center from nothingness, the nothingness of the Ein Sof. But the image, the name for Keter is crown. Now, if we contemplate crown, that will tell us much, because what is a crown? A crown is a symbol of authority, but it is not part of the king or queen. It sits on the head, but it is not of the head. So contemplating a crown, what it is, what it stands for, will tell us something about what Keter is. Then the magical image of Keter is an ancient, the magical image of Keter is an ancient bearded king in profile. So we're seeing one half of the head of this ancient bearded king. What does an ancient bearded king tell us? What does it cause us to feel? Why is it in profile? Why is it that only one half of the face can be seen? So if one half of the face is pointing out to us that we can see it, where is the other half of the face pointing? Why can't we see it? Now, these are just the first things that, might come to our mind. But the more we spend time contemplating those things, the more ideas, the more insights we will gain. Now, if we look at, and I'm going to have to look at, in a minute, I'm going to have to refer to a book because there's so many of them. But for example, the Yetziratic text and the titles given to Keter are things like concealed of the concealed, ancient of ancients, the circle within the point, the ancient of days. And there are many more. And if we allow ourselves to reflect on those titles and what they mean, again, much revelation will come to us about the nature of Keter. Now, most of the Sephira are attributed to planets, but Keter isn't. It's associated with the prima mobile, the first whirlings. So the very first movement outside of Ein Sof, where there is nothing. Keter is the prima mobile, first swirlings. Hokmah is the zodiac. Binah is Saturn. So if we look at these things and if we allow our mind to dance over them and play amongst these images, we learn and we gain experience. The point within the circle, what does that tell us? What revelation does that bring? The spiritual experience of Keter, because again, each of the Sephira is associated with a spiritual experience. The spiritual experience of Keter is union with God. The God name for Keter is Eheya, I am. What does that tell us? If we allow our minds to dwell on it, there's so much that these images, these titles will reveal to us if we give them the opportunity to do something within us. Anyway, I could go on because there's tarot associations, there's elemental associations. It goes on and on. Now, you might ask, well, where do I get these associations from? You can get them from, there's two books that I would recommend. One of them, well, the Dion Fortune, the Mystical Qabbalah, I find that to be absolutely amazing. I go back to it time after time after time. Gareth Knight has written a book, Practical Qabbalah. I'm not quite sure of the title. I'll put it in the description. But you don't even have to buy the books. You can go online and do a Google search for information about each of the Sephira, and you will find these things. So contemplation and meditation, and then do your reading and your research, because then what you read will make sense to you. Whereas if you do it the other way round and try and gain all your knowledge and experience from the tree by that which you read, you are likely to find it to be dry and possibly dusty and difficult to get to grips with, which would be a great shame, because it's none of those things. The tree of life and what it represents is none of those things. It's a living, vital, fascinating, wonderful, spectacular study when we get it right. Right, on that point, because the light's fading, I'm getting really croaky. And yeah, so I'm going to end. Thanks for listening. See you guys again soon. Bye for now.